Imagine a moment of sheer panic. The clock is ticking down. Your team is clinging to a slender lead in the dying seconds of a crucial match, and the opposing striker is bearing down on your goal. In desperation, your goalkeeper sprints out, dives at the striker's feet, and somehow manages to deflect the ball back towards one of your defenders. Relief washes over you as the defender, without a second thought, calmly taps the ball back to the grateful goalkeeper, who scoops it up into his arms. Crisis averted, right? Wrong. This seemingly innocuous act, a common occurrence in football for over a century, was once perfectly legal. But what if I told you that this simple back pass, a tactic designed to kill time and preserve a lead, almost killed the beautiful game itself? For decades, football matches were often marred by cynical tactics, particularly in the closing stages. Teams leading by a single goal would resort to time-wasting maneuvers, including repeatedly passing the ball back to their goalkeeper, who could then hold on to it indefinitely. This frustrating spectacle, while technically within the rules, strangled the attacking spirit of the game and turned potentially thrilling encounters into tedious displays of defensive pragmatism. Spectators grew increasingly disillusioned, and the sport's reputation suffered. The integrity of the game was at stake, and something had to change. The problem wasn't just the time wasting itself, it was the fundamental imbalance it created. Goalkeepers, uniquely privileged with the ability to handle the ball with their hands, became safe havens for defenders under pressure. This encouraged overly cautious play, stifled creativity, and rewarded negative tactics. The flow of the game was constantly interrupted, and the attacking team's momentum was often extinguished by a simple, unchallenged back pass. Imagine the frustration of watching your team relentlessly attack, only to see the opposition repeatedly diffuse the situation with a series of unchallenged passes back to their goalkeeper, who could then hold onto the ball for what seemed like an eternity. It was a recipe for stagnation, and it threatened to suffocate the very essence of attacking football. The back pass rule, as it became known, wasn't implemented overnight. It was the culmination of years of growing frustration and increasing pressure on FIFA, the governing body of world football, to address the issue of time wasting and defensive negativity. The 1990 World Cup in Italy served as a particularly glaring example of the problem, with numerous matches descending into dull defensive affairs characterized by endless back passes and cynical fouls. The tournament was widely criticized for its lack of excitement and attacking intent, and it became clear that drastic measures were needed to revitalize the game. The calls for change grew louder, and FIFA finally recognized the urgent need to address this growing crisis. The very future of the sport as an engaging spectacle hung in the balance. This isn't just a story about a single rule change, it's a story about the evolution of football, the constant struggle between attacking ambition and defensive pragmatism, and the delicate balance that must be maintained to ensure the game remains captivating and fair. It's a story about how a seemingly minor adjustment to the laws of the game can have a profound impact on its overall character and appeal. It's a story about how a simple back pass, once a perfectly legal and accepted tactic, almost brought the beautiful game to its knees. And it's a story about how, in the face of growing disillusionment, football managed to reinvent itself and rediscover its attacking soul. The move toward banning the back pass wasn't solely driven by aesthetic concerns. A tangible decline in goal-scoring rates underscored the issue. Numbers don't lie, and the statistics painted a clear picture. Football was becoming increasingly sterile. Prior to the rule change, the average number of goals per game had steadily decreased in many leagues, a worrying trend that threatened to undermine the very excitement that drew fans to the sport. This wasn't simply a matter of perception. It was a demonstrable shift in the game's dynamics. Teams were prioritizing defensive solidity over attacking flair, and the back pass tactic was a key enabler of this cautious approach. Consider, for instance, the Italian Serie A, renowned for its tactical sophistication, but also increasingly criticized for its low-scoring matches. The constant recycling of possession back to the goalkeeper became a hallmark of Italian football during this period, a strategy that, while effective in securing results, often left spectators feeling shortchanged. Beyond the statistical evidence, the psychological impact of the back pass was equally significant. Knowing that a simple pass back to the goalkeeper could effectively neutralize any attacking threat created a sense of resignation among opposing players. It sapped their motivation and stifled their creativity. Why risk an ambitious through ball when the defender could simply punt it back to the safety of the goalkeeper's arms? This defensive mindset permeated the entire team, leading to a more conservative and less adventurous style of play. The attacking players, in turn, became hesitant to take risks, fearing that any mistake would be quickly punished by a swift retreat to the defensive sanctuary. The result was a vicious cycle of negativity, where attacking intent was gradually eroded by the constant threat of the unchallenged back pass. The debate surrounding the back pass rule also highlighted a deeper philosophical divide within football. On one side were those who argued that the rule was simply a tactical tool, a legitimate means of controlling the game and managing the clock. They contended that teams should be free to utilize any strategy within the laws of the game to achieve their objectives. On the other side were those who believed that the back pass tactic was fundamentally unsporting, a cynical ploy that undermined the spirit of attacking football. They argued that the game should be about scoring goals and entertaining the fans, not about grinding out results through defensive attrition. This clash of ideologies reflected a broader tension within the sport, a constant struggle between pragmatism and idealism, between the desire to win at all costs and the commitment to playing attractive, attacking football. To truly grasp the impact of this rule, ponder the implications for player development. Young players, learning the game, were being taught to prioritize safety and caution over creativity and risk-taking. Coaches, under pressure to win, often encouraged their players to rely on the back pass as a means of avoiding mistakes and preserving leads. This emphasis on defensive solidity, while understandable in the short term, had a detrimental effect on the long-term development of attacking talent. Players were less likely to experiment with new skills, take on defenders, or try ambitious passes, fearing that any error would be met with disapproval. Consequently, the pool of creative, attacking players began to shrink, further exacerbating the problem of low goal-scoring rates. The future of the game was at stake, not just in terms of entertainment value, but also in terms of the quality of players being produced. Furthermore, consider the effect on smaller teams. The back pass rule disproportionately benefited larger, wealthier clubs with superior defensive resources. These teams could afford to employ highly skilled defenders who were adept at passing the ball back to their goalkeepers under pressure. Smaller teams, lacking the same level of defensive talent, were often forced to resort to more desperate measures, such as long balls and aimless clearances, which further contributed to the decline in attacking football. The back pass rule, therefore, not only stifled creativity, but also exacerbated the existing inequalities within the sport, making it even more difficult for smaller teams to compete with their wealthier counterparts. The playing field was already uneven, and the back pass rule only served to tilt it further in favor of the established elite. Beyond the immediate impact on goal tallies and tactical approaches, the back pass rule fostered an environment ripe for gamesmanship and unsavory behavior. Imagine a scenario where a team, leading by a single goal in the waning moments of a match, orchestrates a series of deliberate fouls near their own penalty area. These fouls, strategically committed to disrupt the flow of play and eat up valuable seconds, would then be followed by a cascade of back passes to the goalkeeper, effectively sealing the victory through sheer attrition. This cynical manipulation of the rules, while not explicitly illegal, flew in the face of fair play and sportsmanship. It rewarded teams for their cunning rather than their skill, and it left a bitter taste in the mouths of spectators who had come to witness a genuine contest of athletic prowess. A less obvious, yet equally significant consequence was the dampening effect on goalkeeping innovation. With the safety net of the back pass readily available, goalkeepers had less incentive to develop their distribution skills or venture further from their goal lines. Why risk a misplaced pass or an ill-advised foray into midfield when they could simply rely on their defenders to bail them out with a routine back pass? This reliance on the status quo stifled the evolution of the goalkeeping position and prevented the emergence of more proactive and versatile custodians. Consider the contrasting examples of goalkeepers like René Higuita, known for his daring forays outside the penalty area, and more traditional, stay-at-home goalkeepers. The back pass rule, in effect, incentivized the latter, discouraging the kind of adventurous play that could add a new dimension to the game. Digging deeper, the back pass conundrum inadvertently highlighted a fundamental flaw in how professional fouls were penalized. A tactical foul, designed to prevent a promising attack, often resulted in a mere free kick, a relatively minor punishment, compared to the potential reward of disrupting a dangerous offensive play. This imbalance encouraged cynical fouling, as teams calculated that the benefits of stopping an attack outweighed the risk of conceding a free kick. When combined with the back pass rule, this created a perfect storm of negativity, where teams could effectively shut down the game by stringing together a series of tactical fouls, followed by unchallenged passes back to their goalkeeper. It was a frustrating experience for attacking teams, who found themselves constantly thwarted by a combination of cynical tactics and lenient officiating. Another crucial layer is the impact on the overall spectacle. Television viewership, a key driver of revenue and popularity in modern football, suffered as matches became increasingly predictable and devoid of excitement. Fans tuning in to watch high-scoring thrillers were often greeted with tedious displays of defensive pragmatism, characterized by endless back passes and a distinct lack of attacking ambition. This decline in viewership not only affected the financial health of the sport, but also eroded its cultural significance, as football lost its appeal as a source of entertainment and inspiration. The long-term consequences of this trend could have been devastating, potentially leading to a decline in participation rates and a loss of interest among future generations of fans. Now consider how this applies when youth coaches are tasked with teaching the fundamentals. The presence of the back pass allowed for a distortion of the core values of the sport. Instead of emphasizing skillful dribbling, creative passing, and incisive finishing, coaches were incentivized to prioritize defensive organization and time-wasting tactics. This created a generation of players who were more adept at stifling attacks than creating them, and it undermined the very essence of attacking football. The back pass, in this context, became a symbol of a flawed system, a system that rewarded negativity and discouraged the kind of adventurous play that makes football such a captivating sport. The narrative surrounding the back pass rule often overlooks its subtle influence on refereeing styles. Before the ban, officials frequently adopted a more lenient approach towards time wasting, perhaps viewing it as an unavoidable, albeit undesirable, aspect of the game. This tolerance, however, inadvertently emboldened teams to push the boundaries of acceptable behavior, leading to increasingly blatant displays of cynical gamesmanship. With the back pass option removed, referees were empowered to take a stricter stance against time wasting, knowing that teams could no longer rely on the goalkeeper as a convenient escape route. This shift in officiating style, while gradual, contributed significantly to a more dynamic and engaging game, as teams were forced to maintain a higher tempo and avoid resorting to delaying tactics. The rule's removal also triggered a fascinating evolution in defensive strategy. Prior to its demise, defenders could often rely on a simple back pass to alleviate pressure, even in precarious situations. With this option no longer available, defenders were compelled to develop more sophisticated ball-playing skills, including the ability to dribble out of tight spaces, play accurate passes under pressure, and make intelligent decisions in possession. This emphasis on technical ability transformed the role of the defender, turning them from mere stoppers into valuable contributors to the team's attacking play. Think, for example, about the modern center back, comfortable receiving the ball in their own penalty area and initiating attacks with precise passes. This evolution would likely have been stymied had the backpass rule remained in place. Moreover, the debate surrounding the backpass rule brought into sharp focus the inherent tension between tradition and progress in football. Some argued that the rule was an integral part of the game's history, a tactical nuance that added to its complexity and strategic depth. They contended that tampering with established rules risked undermining the very fabric of the sport. Others, however, maintained that football, like any living organism, must adapt to changing circumstances and embrace innovation in order to remain relevant and engaging. They argued that the backpass rule, while perhaps acceptable in a bygone era, had become an anachronism in the modern game, a relic of a more defensive and less entertaining time. This clash of perspectives highlighted the ongoing struggle to balance respect for tradition with the need for progress, a challenge that continues to shape the evolution of football to this day. Considering the perspective of a young, aspiring goalkeeper at the time, the impending rule change likely induced a degree of anxiety. The backpass rule, in many ways, provided a safety net, a reliable means of avoiding costly mistakes. Its removal demanded a significant adjustment, forcing goalkeepers to become more adept with their feet, more decisive in their decision-making, and more willing to take risks in possession. This transition, while undoubtedly challenging, ultimately proved beneficial, as it spurred goalkeepers to develop a more complete skill set and embrace a more proactive role in the team's overall strategy. The modern goalkeeper, comfortable playing as a sweeper keeper and initiating attacks with accurate throws and passes, is a testament to the transformative impact of this rule change. The ripple effects extended into the realm of coaching education. With the backpass removed, coaching curricula had to adapt to emphasize ball-playing skills for defenders and goalkeepers alike. Drills and exercises were developed to improve passing accuracy, first touch, and decision-making under pressure. Coaches were encouraged to foster a more proactive and attacking mindset, rather than simply focusing on defensive organization and time-wasting tactics. This shift in coaching philosophy, while subtle, contributed significantly to the development of a more technically proficient and tactically sophisticated generation of players. Reflecting on this journey so far, it becomes evident that the seemingly simple act of passing a ball back to a goalkeeper was, in reality, a keystone holding up an entire edifice of tactical constraints and unintended consequences. Its removal wasn't merely a surgical alteration, but more akin to pulling a single thread that unraveled a tapestry woven with threads of defensive excess, stifled creativity, and distorted incentives. The repercussions resonated far beyond the immediate impact on goal tallies, influencing everything from refereeing approaches to the very essence of player development. The story of the backpass rule isn't simply about a regulation. It's about the ongoing dialogue between structure and spontaneity within the game. It underscores how even well-intentioned rules can inadvertently sculpt the landscape of play in ways that diminish its inherent beauty and excitement. It reveals the inherent challenge in legislating a sport that thrives on improvisation and unpredictability. A sport where the most memorable moments often arise from spontaneous acts of brilliance that defy tactical constraints. Imagine the game as a garden. For years, the backpass rule acted as a kind of artificial fertilizer, promoting the growth of certain defensive strategies while simultaneously inhibiting the flourishing of attacking flair. Removing that fertilizer allowed other, more natural, elements to take root, fostering a more balanced and vibrant ecosystem where creativity could once again thrive. The subsequent blossoming of attacking talent and the evolution of more dynamic playing styles were a direct consequence of this shift, a testament to the power of removing artificial constraints and allowing the game to breathe. As we pivot towards the final reflection, consider the broader implications for how we approach the evolution of the game. The Back Pass saga serves as a potent reminder that even seemingly minor adjustments can have profound and far-reaching consequences. It highlights the importance of carefully considering the potential unintended effects of any proposed rule change and of embracing a holistic perspective that takes into account the complex interplay of tactical, psychological, and cultural factors. Drawing these strands together, we see that the back pass rule and its eventual abolition serves as a microcosm of football's ongoing struggle to reconcile its inherent contradictions: the desire for tactical control versus the need for spontaneous expression, the pursuit of efficiency versus the celebration of artistry. The story isn't just about the rule itself, but about the constant negotiation between these opposing forces, a negotiation that shapes the very character of the game we love. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, a path that prioritizes the spirit of attacking football, encourages creativity and risk-taking, and fosters a more balanced and engaging spectacle for fans around the world. The echo of the back pass ban resonates far beyond the white lines of a football pitch. It serves as a powerful allegory for the delicate act of curation that defines any dynamic system, be it a sport, an art form, or even a society. We often focus on the tangible elements, the rules, the regulations, the observable actions, but true understanding lies in grasping the unseen currents that shape behavior and influence outcomes. The back pass, in its seemingly innocuous simplicity, revealed a complex web of incentives, disincentives, and unintended consequences that threaten to strangle the very lifeblood of the game. The lesson isn't simply that rules matter, it's that their impact is rarely linear or predictable. Every intervention, every adjustment, creates ripples that spread outwards, affecting not only the intended target, but also the surrounding environment. The challenge lies in anticipating these secondary effects, in recognizing that even the most meticulously crafted regulation can inadvertently create perverse incentives or stifle innovation. It requires a humility to acknowledge the limits of our understanding and a willingness to adapt and refine our approach as new information emerges. Consider the broader implications for any field where creativity and innovation are paramount. Are we, perhaps unknowingly, fostering environments that reward conformity over originality, safety over risk-taking? Are we inadvertently creating barriers that prevent unconventional ideas from flourishing? The back pass story reminds us that, sometimes, the most effective way to unlock potential is not to impose new constraints, but to remove existing ones, to create space for experimentation, and allow unforeseen possibilities to emerge. Ultimately, the legacy of the back pass ban lies in its subtle but profound shift in mindset. It wasn't just about changing a rule, it was about embracing a philosophy that prioritizes attacking ambition, celebrates skillful expression, and recognizes the inherent value of taking risks. It was about acknowledging that the true beauty of the game lies not in its flawless execution, but in its unpredictable moments of brilliance, in the spontaneous acts of creativity that defy calculation and capture the imagination. And so, as the final whistle blows on this particular chapter, the true practice begins now. It begins with a renewed commitment to fostering environments that encourage innovation, celebrate creativity, and prioritize the spirit of the game above all else. It begins with a deeper appreciation for the subtle, unseen forces that shape our world and a willingness to challenge the status quo in pursuit of a more vibrant and fulfilling future. The game continues, always evolving, always demanding our attention and our dedication to its highest ideals.